Welcome in, golf fans. We've got episode 2 of the LIV Golf Preview, event number 2 for the 2023 season. I'm here with my boy DB to break down LIV Golf Tucson, brand new course. We got some inside intel this week on exactly what we're going to expect. DB, what's going on, brother?
What up, Joe Idoni? Happy to be back with you. I thought the last video we did, it actually did pretty well. There were we made fun of LIV a little bit with that dumb team picker thing that they had. We had a good time doing that, I think, and we had a good response to the video. So we're back. Hopefully,
Absolutely. Overwhelmingly positive. Excited to be back here to break down the odds board again with you this week. But exciting segment to sort of start the show. So you were able to interview Benji Thompson, who is the caddy and Augusta boy for Abraham Ancer this week. Let's go ahead and cue that up, and then we'll come back in and talk about some odds.
I got my boy Benji Thompson, a fellow Augusta boy, or I guess North Augusta guy, right? Benji joining us.
Yeah, a little both.
He is Benji's a good dude. He's caddy for Abe Ancer on LIV, and we're going to talk a little bit about the golf course today. So first of all, Benji, thanks for coming on. Appreciate the time, buddy.
You got it. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. So tell us about this golf course in Tucson, what you've seen of it, and maybe what kind of player it best suits.
So I buzzed around it once without caddy and walked around, checked it out, and then caddied 8 holes yesterday with Abe. He played 1 through 4 and then 15 through 18, so saw a few holes on each side. From what I've seen, there's a good bit of mix. The golf course is pretty much wide open. T-balls there's a few bunkers in places, but it's pretty much wide open. The greens are really, really firm right now. We're supposed to get a little rain this afternoon, but I think the greens are going to be firm this week. So that's going to be favoring a high ball hitter. So some of these bombers and high ball hitters probably going to do pretty well around here. But then there's a good mix of there's a couple holes that are shorter, so not drivers off the tee. And then I think there's 1, maybe 2 drivable holes that they can make drivable. So that's going to be interesting to see what they do there.
Yeah. In terms of, winning score predictions, what range would you say? I mean, obviously we got to remember it's 3 rounds for those listening and watching. So
yeah.
Winning score, thoughts on the setup that you see it so far?
It's funny you ask that because me and some guys the other day were talking about it. I think I'm the absolute worst. I suck at trying to guess what the winning score will be every week. There's some weeks I'm out there walking around. I'm like, oh my gosh, this golf course is hard. And then they shoot 20 under. So if the golf course stays firm like it is, the greens stay firm and fast like it is, I would say if you shoot 4 or 5 under each day and get it to 15 under, you got a chance to win. But who knows? As wide open as this place is, some of these boys, go out there and make a couple eagles in a round. I don't know. It could get to 20, but I would say right now, give us 15 under, and I'll let Abe sit in the clubhouse and drink tequila and wait and see what they do.
What about those greens? So, in terms of size, in terms of what type of grass we're putting on, how are they rolling, and maybe are they undulating, or are they kind of flat? What are we looking at here?
So the greens are pretty big, which is going to be good since they're so firm. They're really quick. They're big, but they do run off on the edges. So you might see a big, huge green, but you're going to have to come in 2-3 yards to actually where the green is, because if you get over by some of these edges, it's going to run off. The good thing is it's not shaved around all the greens, at least yet. So when it does run off, it's not going to run off 15, 20 yards. It's just going to kind of go off 4 or 5 yards right off the green. But it's like a green inside a green on a lot of these greens, but they are undulated too. There's some mounds and some pretty good spots for approaches. There's a lot of downhills and then some runoffs, like I said. So big greens, which is they're going to need it this week for firm greens.
Is it bent grass? What is it?
It's bent grass, like with some overseed stuff on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the fairways are, overseeded rye, I think. So
how do you feel? You caddied on how long have you caddied for Abe?
Right at 2 years now.
And then how long, and who were you with before Abe?
I was with Kevin Chappell for a little while before Abe, and then worked for Ben Martin some and Lexi Thompson over the years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What compared to like the PGA Tour, like pin placements, where like do you see LIV setting it up similarly for these tournament rounds, like tucked positions and and finding these difficult pin locations? Are they making them a little more friendly? Have you noticed that?
They're not any friendlier. They've actually they've challenged some of these edges and put them on some nice slopes and tricked it up a little bit. But it's pretty similar for the most part, because we do have some of the rules officials. I'm not going to throw any names out there, but some of our boys have been on the PGA Tour for a long time. Rules officials made the jump over as well, so it's pretty similar.
Yeah. What's the total, or what do you think what's it going to play, the course yardage? I mean, obviously one thing will be on the scorecard, but it may play shorter than that.
Again, I suck at that. I never know the par. I never know how long the golf course is.
Okay, just get the ball in the hole, Abe. Come on.
Yeah, exactly. There's 18 holes. They all got to play the same holes. I would guess it's going to be somewhere in the 72 to 74 100-yard range.
How's Abe been playing? What's he been doing in terms of like preparation for the new LIV season? I think you finished like 17th or something at Mayakoba. Not a bad start. Get things going.
Yeah, he's playing really solid. He won that Saudi event and played flawless, and then in Mayakoba he played really, really solid. He just had 3 golf swings. He hit 2 balls out of play with the tee ball, and then Ruff grabbed his club with a 4-iron and hit a tree on the 12th hole on Sunday and threw it out in hazard or whatever. So he had 3 swings that was 3 doubles. If he makes pars on those 3 holes, he finishes 3rd. So he's playing really, really solid right now, and I actually think that he's practicing more since he's made this jump. Like when he goes home, he used to like take time off because he was playing 3, 4, 5 weeks in a row on PGA Tour. But now he's got time off. He's actually practicing more and playing more, I think, at home than he would on the PGA Tour. I mean, there were a number of weeks he'd show up and I'd unpack the golf bag out of the travel bag and it wasn't touched for an entire week from the previous tournament.
Yep. I was actually going to ask you, like, because that's one thing that I felt like I saw firsthand when I went to the LIV event in Miami and I walked with Harold Varner and Charles Howell, and I came back and said, listen, like, from what I could see with my eyeballs and what I could hear, what I was listening to and paying attention to all the guys in the groups that I was walking with, it appeared to me a lot like when I've walked in the ropes with guys at PGA Tour practice round. Like, they were all trying to figure this shit out. Like, they were trying to understand where to hit the ball, where not to hit the ball. How's this going to play with tomorrow's wind? And where's the spot on this green, around this green we cannot afford to miss. And, they're hitting different putts. They're hitting different chip shots from around these holes. Like, the argument that, now these guys have come over here, they're playing less golf, and so they're just like doing nothing, or they don't care, or they're not preparing. I was going to ask you about that, but it sounds like Abe's getting in more practice and the rest, which is important.
Yeah, I think during the weeks out here, we are playing practice rounds with your teams and stuff. And like you said, when they're out there, they're paying attention to spots on the golf course. Hey, we don't want to be here, we want to be here, stuff like that. And you got, like, because Abe's on Sergio's team with Eugenio Chikara and Carlos Ortiz. And when we do play a practice round, it's like all 4 of them are kind of talking to each other. Hey, so we do this, don't do this, all this kind of stuff. And then all the caddies, we're all kind of looking at it together and trying to help each other out. So there's a good bit of preparation that's going on, kind of versus to what we used to do.
How's your Spanish?
Not good. I'm still working on the English. It's Georgia redneck English. I don't think I'm ever going to learn any Spanish.
I can imagine, like, if you're doing practice rounds with all those guys, like, they're probably switching on and off between English and Spanish, and you're trying to remember Lakeside High School Spanish 101 and 102 maybe.
Man, thank God for Glenn and Mikey Kerr that caddy for Sergio and Carlos, because if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't have a clue what's going on, because that's the only people I can talk English to for 9 holes.
Love it. What do you like? What's we've had a couple LIV caddies on before, but like, what's something, you're coming in now to the second season here. What's something in terms of the caddy, I guess your job as a caddy or your life as a caddy that's different, or that you've you're grateful for, whatever, that with the situation you're in now, LIV?
What I've really enjoyed is I've told people, if you've ever worked Ryder Cup, President's Cup, I've done Solheim Cup, like team events. But then if you've ever been to Tiger Woods event, there's only like 18, 20 players. I feel like it's a mix because there's only 48 players, 48 caddies or whatever. I feel it's almost like a small brotherhood, because PJ Tour event's got 144, 156 players every week. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing. There's so many guys. There's so many good guys that's never even talked to. And like out here, there's no caddy area. It's all player, caddy, dining. So there's some mornings that you might see 2 or 3 caddies sitting there with Brooks Koepka and Dustin Johnson eating breakfast that you'd never see. And as far as last year, we all stayed in the same hotel. This year's a little bit different because teams are kind of breaking it up and doing their own travel and stuff like that. But it's almost like a little brotherhood because I'm hanging out and eating dinner with caddies that I've never even kind of been around that much, but a lot more relationships, and it's just a small brotherhood that I think everybody's enjoying.
Yeah. Are you guys? And I forgive me for not knowing. I could look this up easily. Are you guys playing Augusta?
We are, yeah. Abe finished 30th or 31st, something like that, at the end of the year, so he got in.
Okay.
And then after he won Saudi, it jumped him up inside the top 20 there for a little bit. So yeah, he's playing.
What are you looking forward to about that?
Oh man, I'm biased about that golf course as being my favorite because I started caddying out there when I was 16. But I love the Masters and that golf tournament just because of the history and everything behind it. But I mean, every time you go out there, we went and played last week. He played with Joaquin Neiman and Mito, and even just walking around out there with him, I just love it. So definitely always look forward to caddying. I think this will be my 4th. I caddied for Ben Martin when he was an amateur in 2010, and then 2 with Abe so far. So yeah, this will be my 4th one.
I didn't know you caddied there when you were younger. I caddied there 2 years in college too. 07 and 08. Were you there?
I'm trying to remember. I did part-time through high school and college, and I did a little bit full-time after. Hell, I could have been. I don't remember. I think I went on through. I got a real job there for a little while. I was kind of stuck with that, so I went back and did that before I started tour caddying. So
I always say, like, if I'm healthy enough, like whenever I'm retired, I just remember being a caddy and being in there and like looking at the retired guys and just being like, I want to do this when I'm retired.
yeah,
I want to come here, caddy like twice a week, but be at the caddy house 6 days a week, playing cards, shooting the shit, having fun. That's what I want to do when I retire if I'm healthy enough.
Exactly.
I definitely will. Have you? I mean, obviously, it's a hot thing that people have been talking about that I for one am excited about because I love the chaos. Is just the first time we see the LIV guys and the PGA Tour is going to be at Augusta here in a few weeks. Anything you've heard or seen about guys coming in with like kind of even more motivation or kind of a chip on their shoulder to say like, we're not bad golfers all of a sudden, like we're still world-class players and we're going to come here and kick ass and show it to you?
I think there's probably a lot more buildup than it's actually going to be. I mean, for the most part, I think all these boys are just going to be going there to prep and get ready and try to win the tournament. I'm sure there's going to be some needling and cutting up with each other, but I don't see any of the PGA Tour boys going up and talking shit to any of them really. I think, like I said, just be some needling and cutting up, and it'll be a good banner between them. And I think it's actually going to probably bring a lot more interest and whatever you want to call it to the tournament. I think it's going to be cool just to see them all back together for once.
It's going to bring even more, which is crazy to think about. There could be even more interest. I think you're probably going to see Tiger, and then we're going to have that going on. It's going to be electric here in Augusta for sure. So. Well, cool, Benji. We appreciate your time. Wish you the best of luck there in Tucson, you and Abe, and maybe we'll have you on again. We're going to need some help with some of these golf courses. So,
yeah, you got it. I'd come back anytime you want me.
All right, my boy Benji Thompson, bringing the goods. Benji was quite the player back in high school too. By the way, Joe, we talked about this a little bit offline, but he was a good player. Caddy at the National in high school, and I don't think he was supposed to. I think he just figured it out. And then caddied a little bit beyond. And I mean, dude, the guy's been on the bag for Lexi Thompson. He was on the bag for her when she broke out, on the bag for Ben Martin. But really good stuff from Benji Thompson. He's a funny dude. I've got to get him back on the show and do like a full on like stories podcast with him because he's pretty funny. But so basically, the Gallery Golf Club here in Tucson, he talked about, to me, Joe, it sounds like bombs away, let's let them fly, baby, because Benji basically said it's wide open, just let it rip, it's driver heavy. Obviously it's in the desert and there's trouble in the desert, but it sounds like there's plenty of runway for these guys to hit bombs. Talked about the greens being pretty firm today as he was out there, but said they were pretty big. which is good. Um, Other than that, I mean, and then on the winning score thing, I kind of asked him to predict that, which he admittedly said he was bad at, but he could easily see it getting to 15 under, so 5 under a day potentially, and then even said if somebody got real hot, possibly 20 under, which we might. I mean, Charles Howell got to what 17 in the first event. You think these guys might show a little rust. He got to 16, might show a little rust, but who knows, man? I mean, any other thoughts from you?
Yeah, so a couple interesting things I took away. One, the fact that he mentioned that Abe is actually finding more time to practice now and
Yeah,
kind of been able to hone in on your craft, which I wouldn't have anticipated he would say that, but makes a lot of sense in reality, right? The guys are not on the grind, sort of traveling each and every week now anymore, so it gives them a little more time to hone in. Liv has kind of like, I mean, we're at damn near 7,500 yards on a par 71 this week. That is long as hell, DB. So they're kind of embracing a lot of these longer courses and a lot of the setups that they play. But I wanted to ask you about one of the things he said that I thought was really interesting is this idea of the team concept in sort of early in the week and preparing for a golf course, particularly with the caddies, how they're able to sort of come together and cohesively develop a game plan, which I think is unique to LIV, and that there's sort of it's very secretive on the PGA Tour in terms of what you see as advantageous for the week versus we get to an event like LIV, everyone's kind of pulling together and sort of sharing notes and being able to figure out the best way to attack a new golf course.
yeah, for sure. I thought that was interesting. And he talked about he kind of recalled experience with the Solheim Cup with Lexi, and I think maybe a President's Cup with Abe at one point. And we know they do that at those events, right? Like we know all those caddies get together and talk through certain spots on the golf course. But yeah, Benji kind of walking us through and saying, he's doing a lot of practice rounds. I even picked on him there because he was saying how he's pretty much exclusively playing practice rounds with Sergio and Carlos Ortiz and Eugenio. I said, how's your Spanish, Benji? And he was like, it's freaking terrible. My redneck's pretty good, but my Spanish is terrible. He's like, thank God he named 2 other caddies that can help translate for him. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like they're all, very much working together on this thing. There's obviously a lot of incentive for the teams to play well. And with the teams kind of funding their own expenses and such. I mean, he even briefly kind of glossed over that, but he talked about how, he was in a certain hotel and other guys were at other places, and it was all really based on team travel setup. So it is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
That's why we're talking about this. Like there are parts of this that are interesting, even if even if we don't love all of it, there are parts of it that are interesting, and they're just different for guys like us who've been breaking down golf and handicapping the same old, golf tournaments and players for however many years.
Absolutely. A different aspect, always a little bit refreshing in a sense. So we get the Gallery Club this week. And we mentioned the length. We mentioned that he provided a little insight because when I look at the website, DB, it looks to me like typical Arizona golf where
Mhm.
you miss the fairways by a little bit of a good margin and you're in rocks. You're screwed. Like you're taking a drop in some situations because you don't want to break a wrist or a club. Um, that said, the fact that it's wide open and will allow for bombers is going to play like Tucson ain't that far from Mexico, believe it or not. It's like a little less than an hour away from Mexico, but it is going to play a lot different than what we saw at El Camaleon in terms of I think these guys are really going to be able to unleash driver on a lot of these holes and not have to worry about the trouble quite as much like they did at the last event. So it's going to play a lot differently, I think. We have like almost 6 par 4s that are over 450 yards, excuse me. A lot of them breaching that 500-yard mark. Big advantage this week, I think, to the guys who can hit it far versus the last event where we saw a little bit of bump for those guys who are able to pound fairways.
100% agree. Yep, I'm with you. And Benji said he wasn't sure if they were going to quite tip it out to that, but I mean, we were both there in Miami, and that one I think on the card was like 76, and I want to say like I walked it the day before, and all the tee boxes were set up pretty much maxed out at least for one day. So um, I'm sure we'll see it fluctuate a little bit, but probably more in that 73 to 7,400 yard range, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anything else that you pulled away from the last event at Mayakoba? Obviously, your boy Charles Howell gets the victory, sort of his maiden victory with LIV. Peter Uihlein has like been steady and LIV Tour, finished second there. Brandon Grace third. Paul Casey with a really good finish. I noticed I'm looking at some of the LIV golf stats where he was really good in terms of driving distance. He was fourth in fairways hit. He was second in greens in regulation. We hadn't seen that performance out of Paul Casey in a little while. Newcomer Brendan Steele finished fifth. Like outside of Charles sort of getting that win and that cool moment with his family there to sort of get in the winning circle, what do you think you pulled most off the first event of the season?
I mean, Charles was obviously the surprise, and I mean, I actually watched probably his entire back nine that day because it was Charles for the most part. I think I was watching. I remember, if I remember correctly, I had my computer in front of me getting ready for the next week. I had the PJ Tour event that week on the TV, and I had the LIV event on my phone through the app. And I thought, I was excited to see Charles play well and do something. I was a little surprised that we didn't see Mito do as good as I thought he was going to do. I thought Mito was going to kind of come out hot. Brendan Steele was really the one. You and I talked about it on the last show, on the first show, kind of how these new guys seem to come in and there's a little bit of extra motivation. But that didn't quite show out, except for maybe with Brendan Steele. I guess Sebastian Munoz did okay. But I was hoping Mito would do better. He finished kind of, I guess upper middle of the pack at 16th. Other than that, I mean, I don't know. I didn't really have a whole lot of expectations other than I wasn't expecting Charles Howell to win.
Yeah, neither was I. I wish I was, because he had a decent betting price coming
he
into
did.
the week.
Yeah.
But yeah, Charles obviously he just pounded greens. He hit 43 greens on the week, which was 5 more than anyone else in the field. Of course, made the most birdies in the week and was in the top 10 in driving distance. Man, Charles can still get it out there.
Dude, he is a flusher. He's always been a flusher. He's always gotten a lot out of his frame. Like, he's not a big guy. He's not as small as maybe some people think, but he's just kind of average. But he just doesn't miss the center, man. He is a flusher for sure.
He's a crusher, actually.
A crusher.
Yeah.
Well played. Well played.
So what do you think, buddy? You want to pull up the
flushers? Would they have like toilet bowls on their would the toilet bowl be the icon there too?
Of course, I would have put it past them for the flushers. Yeah,
I wouldn't either. Yeah, let's open it up, buddy. Let's get into it.
All right, let's look at the odds for this week. So, depending on the book that you're looking at, I've got the top of the board. Actually, shockingly, Cameron Smith and Joaquin Niemann at the book I'm looking at over at Bet Online. Dustin Johnson is 12-1. Those two guys that I mentioned first are 11-1. Paul Casey is also 12-1 on the heels of a good performance. Then we have Abe Ancer, who we obviously just talked to Benji about at 18, coming off a good win over there in Saudi as well. And then Charles at 18-1. Those are the guys sub 20-1 this week. Have you sort of figured out a strategy in terms of betting the top of the board? Are we getting to the point where, like, obviously I think the PGA Tour and guys that have bet the PGA Tour for a long time, I'm starting to think it may be time to sort of reevaluate strategy a little bit, right? We're seeing Scotty and Rahm and all these favorites hit. Yeah. Are we there with LIV yet, or is it still could be long shot season?
Oh man. I don't think we're there.
Don't it?
It does. I don't think we're there with LIV yet. There's just everything's just such a small sample size, and even though, like, I doubt there's another piece of content or a show or an article you're going to read that's going to give you as much insight on the golf course as Benji gave you, but there's a lot we don't know about these golf courses, we don't have years of play on these golf courses from relevant days, right? I think this course hosted a WGC in like 07 or 08 or whatever it was, but so I think because of those variables, I still think we could, and just the variance of LIV in general, like, to me, it's just not an automatic thing that it's these short numbers. Have we had a 2-time winner on LIV yet?
I think DJ, if you count the championship, right? But the championship was weird because it was only team, but not in the individuals.
Yeah. So, I mean, even that's interesting. I mean, DJ sucked at Mayakoba, right? I mean, he was terrible at Mayakoba.
Yeah, he was not good. Cam Smith was okay sort of in that final round, but overall he wasn't great either. He didn't hit a lot of greens. He didn't hit a lot of fairways. I think this is a much better course setup for both of those guys, but The one that I pulled the trigger on was Abe, man. Not just because we just had
Really?
Benji on, he gave us a little bit of insight there, but I think this is even though the length of the course is there, I love the way that his sort of current form is shaping up. When I look at some stats from basically his last, like, I don't know, 36 rounds, pulling data from everywhere that Abe's played. So some of the European Tour stuff, some of the Asian Tour stuff in that event that he played, obviously the Saudi International. He's gaining over a stroke off the tee per round, which is more than anybody else. And that's not necessarily what I would consider his wheelhouse to be. Now, he hasn't been putting it great, but I think in a week where maybe there's a little bit of understanding from his caddy in terms of the large green surfaces, just continue to gain strokes off the tee at a course like this. And I think he should be set up. Maybe a little bit of pressure last week in Mayakoba as well to carry the torch. I think 18-1 is a fair number. I've seen some 14s elsewhere, so that's when I pulled the trigger on that one.
So you're not worried about maybe a little lack of pop in the bat for old Abe?
I'm really not, to be honest. Let me look at the driving distance numbers from last week and see where he ended up ranking out, because it wasn't nearly as.
Yeah, I mean, those might be just because you don't really, I don't know. If I
A little
remember
skewed.
correctly, yeah. Isn't Mayakoba too? Like, it's not always a rip driver kind of situation, if I remember correctly.
Absolutely. No, not at all. But when he this actually, the LIV Golf stats show his longer drives, which I assume he took driver on. Round 1, he hit one 332, round 2, 323, round 3, 310. So I think he's got it in there. I just think the other strengths of his game and the talent of the level of player he is, like, I think he's a better player than Paul Casey. So when you have those two guys, one at 12-1, one at 18-1, I'll take the couple extra points.
Yeah, I don't really love anybody up here, honestly. But I love the next bunch. So I don't hate your analysis on Ancer. I had Charles Howell not just one in Mayakoba. I would probably think Charles could be an interesting play here. You would have got him at a longer number than he is right now, around 22-1 on DraftKings, but because I think he's a good fit for a place like this. But I don't know that I see Charles winning back-to-back LIV events. I don't know that I see that in the cards. Mito's kind of up here in that range with Ancer in the 18 to 20-1 spot, but he was a little disappointing as well. So I don't know that I want to do that. I start to get excited when we get to like Thomas Peters range.
Yes, I took Thomas Peters. Have you bet him as well?
I like him. 35. He's up to 35 on DraftKings. If you're in a legal state where you can get DraftKings, he's 35. Which, by the way, I don't think we talked about it on the last show, Joe. But in terms of legal sportsbook stateside, there's only like 4 or 5 states that you can bet a LIV event on. I can't remember what they are, but there's not many of them. So we probably need to talk about the numbers on the offshore books as well. But Bovada has him at 25. DK has him at 35-1.
Okay. Yep. I'm actually seeing 22-1. So we're seeing a lot of like differences there. I'm trying to share my screen here, if you could allow that, DB, just to kind of pull the odds up so we can kind of look at it. So here's what I got over at Bet Online, but you're right in that you have to kind of go offshore for a lot of this stuff. Thomas Peters at 22, Brandon Grace 25, there's Steele at 25, Reed and Uline at 28.
Uline's been, I mean, I kind of given the guy a lot of grief over the years, Uline. I feel like he's just been a very underwhelming player, but I mean, he's definitely come close in a couple of these LIV events, right? But I like the Steele number 2. He was another one. Peters and Steele, 25 for Steele. I like. Who else is in that range?
Is this so we get, correct me if I'm wrong, we get one more event, I think, here in Florida before the Masters, right?
Do we?
Yeah, I think it's the week before the Masters at Orange Tree National, like outside of Orlando.
Nice. Let's take a look.
So you got to think a lot of these guys, like
Yep.
I'm thinking the bigger names are starting to sort of gear up, because that's going to be a huge week for these LIV guys. Like I'm looking at Sergio right below there. I'm looking at Brooks Koepka. I can't skip past him. Look, we're on like a bombs away type course, and dude, I got to take Brooks at 30-1. I can't see Peter Uline and Brendan Grace and Brendan Steele up there at lower odds and just ignore the 30 on Brooks. I can't do it.
What's funny is I'm on. Wait a minute, where is he? So on Data Golf, if you sort by their true odds, they've got Brooks way down there. They've got
What do you
Brooks.
mean? What do they got him at?
They've got Brooks's true Data Golf odds at like almost like 64-1 in like the Tringali, Ortiz, Stenson, Bubba range.
I don't know, man. We'll see. Yeah, just to be seen. I had this strategy with him last year because I did bet all the live events, and it was like I just continue to bet Brooks because I feel like he's going to win one of the 8 tournaments last year. And when you didn't see it coming, he kind of broke through. Mayakoba ain't a course for Brooks.
No, and
This
you
place is much
wonder,
better setup.
just from a narrative, let me just get into the narrative side too. Like since the last event, Full Swing comes out, Brooks
Yeah.
catches a lot of heat for his episode. Um, and whether he's going to ever admit it or not, I guarantee you he sees it all. And
Yes.
I could see him playing with a chip on his shoulder, wanting to do something, wanting to prove something as soon as possible to get the conversation away from his his look on Netflix and on his game possibly being back.
Yeah.
As much as people will give him credit for winning a live event, but being back. So I think that is a very bettable number for sure for Brooks.
Yeah, especially getting back into the part of this year where we're starting to get to major championships because the way that that kind of episode was narrated was he was the guy in majors and he lost it. And all of
Yeah.
a sudden he's embarrassed walking out of the Masters and it was like he's in the lowest of lows. So, like he's got to have a little bit of a chip on his shoulder to kind of want to get that back. I mean, he was 47th in the field out of 48 guys, keep in mind, in terms of fairways hit at Mayakoba. But the dude still managed to hit some greens, 16th in greens and regulation. So even if he was missing, that kind of leads me to believe, we get limited stats, DB, but that kind of leads me to believe some of the iron play may be a little sharp and on a course where he was still up there in driving distance inside the top 6 guys in the field. So it leads me to believe that a better setup for him should produce better results, I'm hoping.
Well, I don't want to skip too far ahead, but I just think it makes sense to lump in with the Brooks conversation at an even longer number, Bryson.
Yeah.
Like, when are we going to see? Are we going to see? Since the last event, he's gone public with his equipment changes. Right, he did that cheese ball video that you can always count on him for a really good cheesy ass video.
For
But
sure.
um, where's he at? He's at 45-1 on a. I immediately thought of my mind immediately when Benji started talking about the golf course. My mind immediately went to Brooks and Bryson. Like, I just went,
Yep.
Brooks and Bryson. Like, if they're back, which I've been very critical of how they've played. Like, they've not been great at all. Bryson especially, but if they're back, if they're truly starting to like peak and get ready for Augusta, this could be a great spot to catch him at a big number at a live event. I mean, 45-1 in a 48-man field for Bryson and Brooks
It's
is pretty
crazy.
tall. Yeah.
Is crazy. Last year in these live tournaments, I was on Bryson a lot too at like 20-1 in every event. And it was just like, look, I trust that he's working. I trust that he's practicing. I trust that he's trying to get it right. And the impact of going from PGA Tour to live, I don't think is going to affect his routine or his schedule. And we know the upside. I mean, the guy won a U.S. Open like 2 years ago. It's there. He's the longest guy on any tour in the world. So 45-1 at a place. And that really is same with you. When you told me that you got off the phone with Benji and he said that this place was wide open, my mind went to the same 2 players.
Yep.
What about this mid-range? I mean, you've got Carlos Ortiz, you've got Dean Burmeister. I kind of liked Burmeister last event. Is he a bomber?
I did too. Yeah, he is. He crushes it.
Yeah.
Whatever team he's on, he stings it. Or what team is he on? I don't.
I think he stings it. Yeah, he stings it.
I don't have any idea what teams these guys are on. Most of them. Yeah, he's a stinger. He stings it off the tee.
Yeah,
Yeah, Burmester kind of caught my eye too. What is he? 30-1, 33?
33 on here. Yeah. So the odds, like It's a good if you have multiple offshore accounts, it's a great idea to shop live. You mentioned DraftKings has odds in some states as well, but you see some big discrepancies out there that you may not normally see with PGA Tour. I think the volume is less. I think the handicappers themselves are maybe putting in more of their time into other events, so you can kind of catch them sleeping on a couple guys.
Yep. I'm not a big fan. Like I'm not really buying like Ortiz in this range. My heart wants to go to HV3, but I've been seeing a lot of like he's just I don't know how much I don't know. I've been seeing he's doing a lot of off the course stuff with his foundation right now, and I don't know. I'm not really interested in HV3 right now. I would love to say Bubba because the number is good and he's a long hitter, but he did not impress me at all. In Mayakoba coming back from his injury. I guess that was his first event. However, this is interesting. Data Golf has him at 60, like basically 61-1, which is
That
about
is
where he
interesting.
is. That's like about where he's rated. Everybody else, they have it longer. So that puts him in the, I'll tell you where. So they're putting Bubba in the same. They're putting Bubba just after Louis, Peter Uline, just ahead of Stinson and Koepka.
I don't think I agree with that. I need to see more from Bubba.
But that's interesting.
Yeah, I need to see if there's more reps to develop. What about old Project Pat down there in Arizona?
Nah,
Nothing for you?
I'm not buying that, dude.
Not even off a good week in Mayakoba past Powell and Pat. That was kind
He
of his
loves
jam,
that
right?
place. Yeah, he loves that place. I guarantee you, this long course, he's not feeling that. I am interested in Chikara down there, 60-1.
Yes. Why?
I mean, we've already seen him do it. Like the young kid's got chops. He hits it a mile too. I don't even know where he finished. Where did he finish? Where he finished 29th. Not great for Eugenio, but I mean, 60-1 for a young bomber that's already won on LIV. I don't know. That one jumped out at me. I'm not going to fall for Tringali again. Watch him win.
I know. Whoops.
We both were all over him, weren't we? What about is Horsfield any good anymore? Like, remember when he used to be good?
Yeah.
100-1. He hits it a long way.
He does. He does. What did he finish last week?
Let's look for Horsfield. I feel like it was at the bottom. Yeah, 45th.
Okay.
Not
It's
good.
interesting because you get these guys at 100-1, right? And you think they have to beat 48 guys. And I would argue you could probably cross out 8 of them. No chance.
Yeah, like
David Puig, you got no chance.
Sawan Kim, Chase Koepka, Jediah Morgan. I mean,
Scott Vincent's not winning.
Laurie Cantor.
Yeah.
I would
McDowell
say,
sucks now.
I would say
He
on a
ain't
course
winning
like
here.
this, Dick Bland ain't winning.
Yeah. Graham's out at a course like this. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you're talking about 40 guys max.
Yeah. Yep. 3 days, less holes. Do you think less holes brings in more variability? I think it does.
I think it does too. I was actually talking about this today on a show because I was like, we were talking about first round leader bets, and I was like, look at last week at Sawgrass. Freaking Chad Ramey was your first round leader, right? Because any one of these guys can go low for a day. But then over 4 rounds, over time, who was at the top of that leaderboard? Freaking Scotty Scheffler, Tyrrell Hatton, Hideki. It was Max, like it was like the cream of the crop, right? So I think the more rounds you have, the more the cream continues to rise up to the top. So I think the 3-round thing might add in more variance.
Nailed it. I think it gives the long shots a little bit more life. Like if Sawgrass was 8 rounds, like it's going to be Scotty and all the familiar names. But if it's 2 rounds, hell, Adam Svensson might win.
Dude, oh, I was thinking about you. I should have texted you. Now I will say this: Pat fully bought into your Svensson selling. I mean, he was like, he did it. He bet on him. He hit him top 20, I think.
Yeah.
All on
So
you.
did I.
And I kind of gave you some shade, I think. I don't know. I don't remember if it was that week or another week, but
no, you did, because I came on the Better Sports Network show with you guys, and you were like, "Give us a long shot," and I was like, "Svensson."
Well, you sold Pat. You sold Pat. Good for. I mean,
yeah,
I
good stuff.
I look like the sucker there.
Yeah, it was a classic mush by me. I will take credit for
You
that.
did. Oh, you did mush him. I just thought about that. You
But the
got.
thing was, dude. All right, I mushed
You've
him. All
been
right,
in this
I'll admit.
game too long to do this.
But look, I knew Adam Svensson wasn't winning the players. So it felt like a mush that I was like never confident he was actually going to win. So I was like sarcastically joking. Um he was never going to win, dude.
Joe, I put on a master class of mushing and anti-mushing at the Honda. When we had Chris Kirk at 35 and we really needed Chris Kirk to hit and Eric Cole was starting to pull away and then the playoff situation, if you go back to my Twitter feed and look at the timeline of that, I like Chris Kirk should send me wine. He should be mailing me wine from Athens. It wouldn't be expensive. It's an hour and 20 minutes down the road. I I gave it to Eric Cole early in the round. I think it was like number 11. I was like, Eric Cole's winning. It's all over. Done. Reverse mushing things, starting to mush things. Then the playoff happens. I start doubling back on some things. Masterclass. When I saw you post that about Spinney, I was like, oh, this is
It's
over.
over.
It's over.
2 holes later, it's a triple bogey.
I had to do it myself because I faded Morikawa like big time last week, publicly. And then he goes out. And I mean, thank God. I was like thanking God for Chad Ramey on day one because it was the only thing that kept Morikawa from being your first round leader. And
Yeah.
so then I was like, oh, he's going to win this thing. It's over because I needed him to lose. And then he, shoots even par over 3 days. But
What about all right, I'm gonna pull up real quickly like the team odds in this because actually Bet Online does offer these. So 4 Aces is the favorite, plus 350. Crushers is 400. Like I think this could be a fun way to kind of bet and sweat live. Actually, if you start to do it and find an angle in it. Torque plus 600, Fireballs plus 600, Range Goats. I still can't get used to the Range Goats, man. Plus 600. Stingers, Ripper, Smash, they're all down there. How about the High Flyers, 28-1? You got any belief in old Phil?
I have belief in Phil. I don't know about Piot.
Who else they got? They got Steele. They got Tringale.
No, I don't think so. I like. I tell you, I like. I mean the Crushers really have. To me, the Crushers have a nice advantage.
I think so too. I was looking at that, dude, and if we're talking pure driving distance ranks,
yeah,
they had 3 Crushers guys finished inside the top 8.
yeah.
In Mayakoba. So Howell, Casey, and Bryson all bomb it. And Lahiri is maybe one of the most solid 4th players on a team.
Agree. Now
Yeah.
I think I like the Fireballs
I,
next.
yeah, I love the balls, man. I got a Fireballs logo back here. Let me show you this.
We got to see this full screen. Oh yeah, I think I remember when you did this. Didn't you make this like right after it happened?
Look at that. We did some at my work, we did some hats for Liv. And they have these little embroidered patches, and I took a Fireballs hat. So I'm team balls, man.
I like it. I mean, I think it's either the Fireballs or the Crushers here, and I don't really know that I would have any interest in putting money on anyone else. I mean, maybe Stinger would be the next one, but I don't love it.
I'm trying to pull up DraftKings now just so we can kind of look at a little bit of pricing, and then we'll sort of wrap things up. But do you play DraftKings any differently for Live than you would do for a PGA Tour event, given that like just the formatting stuff, or do you kind of look for a lot of the same stuff?
Honestly, man, I've gone into DraftKings both earlier this week, yesterday, and last week or the last event at Mayakoba, and I've just not played because I don't see any prize pool in there that is at all sexy to me. I don't.
Yeah.
It's really low, and I know that this is like a chicken or egg situation. We faced this early in the PGA DFS days with 2015 when DraftKings was like, well, we need more players, we need these things to fill so that we can make the contest bigger. But then people were like, well, we don't want to play until the contests are bigger. So we were all we're all just holstering our weapons. But I haven't seen much that's enticing to me. Let me see what you got here.
Let's make a lineup here. What do you
All
say
right.
for the pitch and putt? This is a $20 contest. Cam Smith 11-7, DJ 11-5, Joaquin Neiman. Who do you want to start with up at the top as like our big gun?
I mean, I'd probably say either. I'd say I'd like to have one of Neiman or DJ. I mean, you're a big Ancer guy, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know that, but playing both is two of those guys is going to be good.
I think we're sleeping on DJ a bit.
Oh, I'm not sleeping on DJ. I mean, I'm
He's
not
the
gonna
best
sit him
player in
10-1.
LIV. He was the best player last season.
Yeah,
He's coming at a course where it's bombs away.
yeah.
Um,
Oh, click the button. Let's go.
let's start with Dustin Johnson.
11-5, huh? Jeez.
Yeah, expensive, right? Let's see who's cheap though.
Yeah, let's go down to the bottom. I like that. First guy that makes you stop. I mean, Phil a little bit just because of the bomber
Horsfield
in
makes me
Arizona.
stop.
Horsfield does after the terrible week in Mayakoba. I mean, hell, didn't Phil beat him?
Did Phil beat him? Oh, geez. Okay.
Hold on. Yeah, Horsfield finished 45th.
All right.
Hold
Forget
on.
Horsfield.
Phil finished 27th.
We're going to need one of these guys. Why not Phil?
Phil shot 4 under on the last round.
Let's roll.
I mean, again, you're in Arizona too. So you have the Arizona and the bomber narrative.
Right.
I mean,
let's roll Phil.
do that. All right, let's keep going.
Let's see what we got sort of here in the meaty range. Brooks or Bryson or both?
Oh, where's Brooks? Brooks is 9.
Brooks is $9,000. Bryson's 8,300.
Oh gosh, $700 price break there on Bryson. I don't mind either one of them. I'd play either one of them or both.
All right.
You know where it leads us.
I think you like Bryson there. I'm going to say that Tom Peters is too cheap here.
Yep. Let's
He's
do that.
20-1 basically to win, and he's 8,600.
Love that. What does that leave?
Tommy P.
6.
All right, so we got 7,600.
I got my eye on Burmester there if we can get up to it. Although I like Eugenio right there. Eugenio. Anybody lower than him? Not on that screen.
Yeah, I don't love anyone lower than Eugenio.
Eugenio's the lowest guy. So
Eugenio gives us 7,900, which gives us Stenson, Wiesberger, Lahiri, Leishman. Ugh.
Tough sledding here.
I don't love those.
No, but we can't go lower than Eugenio though. Lower than Eugenio is bad. Do you like Eugenio?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Kid's a stud.
Yeah, he is. All right, well then we got to make a decision here. I mean,
you know what? I'm clicking Mark Leishman.
Okay.
All right, so we got Dustin, Phil, Bryson, Peters, Eugenio, Mark Leishman, bombs away, enter $20. Don't dupe me.
I feel like that would be a pretty I think we'd have some leverage there. I think we have some leverage with Leash, Eugenio, Phil. I bet we have some leverage in those 3 guys.
Love it, dude. Anything else before we wrap up out of here for this week?
That's it, man. Appreciate you. Enjoyed the show. Enjoyed it as always. Check out Preferred Lines podcast, all the goodies. Let's have
Appreciate it. Great stuff going on in the Nut Hut. Got the matchups in there now. Been red hot on those. You've been crushing it as well with the top 20. Like it's the place to be, man. The live chat on Wednesdays. You put in a ton of work there, and all the success and the people that follow it closely is well deserved. So great stuff for you. Great stuff out of everything that we've sort of seen this week. It was awesome to sort of hear the interview with Benji. We hope to be able to bring you more of those segments throughout the year to give you a little bit of insight on not only the course, but sort of the team aspect and what's going on within the players and within the caddies, because I think it's important to kind of sometimes hear their voice and not some of the talking heads media that are so closely attached to the PGA Tour that sometimes paint a false narrative. So it was very interesting to hear his sort of perspective on things, and you know how things may be a bit overblown and how they'll be received at Augusta National in a couple of weeks when the tour, all tours sort of make their way into your neck of the woods. So excited for that coming soon.
Yeah, Benji told me when we got off, I said, "Look, man, I might call on you for every one of these." He said, "All right," he said, "I'll do my best." So, if we, you know, we'll at least get something out of Benji. I bet every every tournament week.
Love to hear it. That's the difference. Appreciate you checking out the LIV show for Tucson. Best of luck. We'll catch you guys next time for DB. I'm Joe Idoni. We'll talk to you guys later. Peace.
See you.